Okay, 11.4. Okay, back. This is called a parent function right now. Okay? Because this is your extension, this is the translation, and here is my A. Remember, my A affects the Y, right? If you have this, and we're only going to start out with, the smallest number under a radical is what? What's the smallest number that you could have? 2? 1? I can't have a half, 0.5? I could have 0, but I can't have a negative number. So the square root of 0 is what? 0. Listen, Michael. And then the square root of 1 is? What's the square root of 1? 1. Now I'm not going to plug in 2 because that's not a perfect square. What's my next perfect square that comes out to be an integer number? 4. So when you graph this, it's 0, 0, it's over 1 up 1, and over 4 up 2, and it goes like this. It doesn't go into the negatives because you can't have a square root of a negative or a negative y. We call it, a lot of teachers call it, the banana curve. It takes off and it goes to the right. My domain, remember, is x. What can x be? It's going right and up. Is my x values, will they ever be negative? Look at the equation. So my domain, all you have to do is find the domain, is just x is greater than or equal to 0 because it's going to the right of 0, 0. Okay, now, that is my parent function. There's no h or k. There's no translation. Now, this is where there is shifting involved, going up and down or right and left. And what you have to, first of all, is identify the hk, which is your starting point, which in a parabola was our vertex. So up here, this is hk is my starting point. It's very similar to squared, okay, or to absolute value. So in here, if I look at, let me just write it up here, big time, y equals a square root of x minus h plus k. What am I substituting in to this box to get a positive 3? What would the h have to be? It would have to be a negative 3 because x minus a negative 3. Here, I'll put this here so you can see it on the video. It's x minus h plus k. So in this case, my hk, very good, is negative 3. And is there anything being added outside the box, outside the radical? No, so it's 0. So instead of that 0, 0, we shifted over 3 units to the left. A is 1. So guess what? It has the same shape as my parent function. I don't substitute into this equation anymore. I just use the equation to find the hk. Everybody hear that? John, did you hear that? You just find the hk because you have a hard time with graphing. Okay, so now you have that, and all you're going to do is the parent function. This is my new 0, 0. All I'm going to do is 1, 1, and 4, 2. Why did I choose 1 and 4? They're perfect squares, and we're taking the square root. So from this, I'm going to go over 1, up 1, over 4, up 2, and this is my graph. I'm done. What did I use that graph for? Just to identify the hk. What would be my domain? The domain, where does x start? Negative 3. It's the h. It's x is greater than or equal to negative 3. My domain is always going to be x is greater than or equal to h. Michael D. Michael D. What is my HK in this one?
H is -2 or 2.
Which one is it, negative 2 or 2?
2.
2, and what's my K? 0. Because you're going to just substitute 2 in for this box to get x minus 2. What h basically is, if you want to think about it this way, it's what would make this value under the radical equal to 0. What would you have to substitute in for x? You'd have to put in 2. So here is 2, 0. Okay, now how am I going to draw from there, Farnham? What am I going to do from here? And 4, 2. What is my domain? Michael J. Two, because it's starting here and it's going to the right. Okay? Okay, let's look at the next one. Honey, what would be my HK? 3, 0. If it would be 3, 0, it would be x minus 3 under the radical plus 0. What do you think it is? 0, 3. There's nothing being subtracted. So now it goes up here, and what am I going to graph from here? Okay, and what would that look like?
It goes up to the right, so 1, 1, and then 4, 2.
Very good. And what is my domain?
X is greater than or equal to 3.
Then it would have to start over here at 3. 0. It's everything to the right of this. And x is 0. Okay, Eric, what would be my HK on this one? 4? Negative 4. So I go 0, negative 4, and then how would I move? And over 4 up 2. What is my domain? Very good. Okay, on this one, what is my HK? Safa, what would you say it is? It is 0, 0. Now we got a 2 there. So it kind of messes us up. So on this one, it's going to go over 1 and up, not 2, the square root of 2, which is 1.4. And when you go over 2, you have 4, and what would that be? Up 4. Up 2, I'm sorry. So that was a little bit different because we had a silly 2 in there. But don't make it hard with yourself. It's like here, it would be 1, and the square root of 2 is 1.4. Okay, both of these are called, these two are called horizontal translations. Why do you think they're called horizontal? Good, they're moving from the vertex, from the origin to the left and to the right. Here we moved to the left, here we moved right. These two are called vertical translations because we moved up and we moved down. Now let's check this one out. There's something that's happening with both H and with K. So on here, Oscar, what would be your HK?
0, 3.
What about the 1?
1.
1, 3. So here's my point 1, 3. And how am I going to move from that point? Remember how we always move from the vertex? This is like the vertex. How am I going to move? Up 1 and then what? Okay, and then what? Okay, over 4. We normally do the X and then the Y. Over 4 and up. So it looks like this. I'm not using that equation. After you find the HK, you're home free because A is 1 out here. Now, what is my domain, Max?
X is greater than or equal to 1.
Okay, very good. You guys try 8 and 9. Any questions? Asia, what did you get for your point for this one? What's HK?
Negative 2.
Beautiful. Negative 2, 3. Negative 2 and 3. And then how would you move?
Oh, over 1
And
and then over 4.
and what is my domain? Domain is X. Look at what we've been doing on all of these. Here, where does it start? It starts at negative, greater than or equal to negative 2. Okay, Taylor, what's your starting point here?
Number 9.
Yep,
2, negative 1.
good. 2, negative 1, and then how would I move?
Up 1 over 1, and then over 4 up 2.
And what is my domain?
D is greater than or equal to 2.
2. Okay, turn the page, and I'm going to just have you do a couple more. These two, actually these 3, these are called diagonal translations. Because notice my starting point, my HK, is at a diagonal from the origin. So they're called diagonal when you have a movement at both the H and the K. Okay, turn to page 13A and just do the last 3. And we'll be done. And then we'll go over our quiz. And then I'll put up the assignment. Brampton and Giovanni, I'm going to go through this business book. So bring your pencil. Take off your headphones. Yeah. Brampton?
What is did you find the X's and
Just the bond. Just the bond. No, like on that page, she's supposed to do the bottom 3. Yeah, it's starting off with
Acho que as pessoas
So it's 2 negative 3.
Makes sense. How do you see that?
Major ball.
How do you see dramatic? It's either now you see or how you see. Now you see. How you see.
And then the question comes, why do you
Like you. Like, look. Maybe my brother. Like
Okay.
How do you know?
that's it.
Okay. Class, Armand, what's HK?